Welcome to Alberta Municipal Votes 2025 here on Municipal Affairs. We are entering the final cycle of the 2025 Alberta Municipal Election Campaign. And that means across this province, candidates are stepping forward with visions for stronger communities, smarter growth, and even more responsive local governments. And today, we are honored to be joined by Edmonton Ward Sipiwiyiniwak Council candidate Giselle General. Giselle, thank you so much for sitting down with me and speaking about yourself and your campaign to be one of Edmonton's next city councillors. I want to start with a very simplistic question, but it's a question I have asked every single person who's ever come on the show, so you're no exception. And if you've listened to the show, you know what the question should be by now. Where does your sense of duty to serve your community come from, Giselle?
I think for me, I have to give my education credit for that. I grew up in the Philippines where somehow the curriculum, especially for the so-called smart kids, it's beyond just academics. We are rated very deliberately based on our character, behavior in school, and extracurriculars. So doing stuff above and beyond what is expected is something I have been used to all my life. So whether it's skill-based extracurriculars, community service, extracurriculars, it's just part of my childhood. And I believe, yeah, I was just able to carry that over when I came to Canada as a teenager through my university years and as a working person. It was just a part of me trying to find time and opportunities in evenings and weekends to see how I can help, how I can advance my skills, and get to know this city that I call home. And really going out there and finding these opportunities is a part of that.
So where was the municipal political draw in that story come from? Because it sounds like you would have gone through volunteerism, you would have gone through nonprofits to give back to the community that you have called home for the last few years. Where did the draw to say, you know what, if I truly want to have my voice heard, I need to be at the council table? Where's that desire come from?
2015 is where it all started, where I discovered here in Edmonton several programs that are encouraging women to pursue leadership positions. I stumbled upon it kind of by accident, actually, because there's this program at the time called Equal Voice. It is a national organization helping women to run for office. But when I discovered their workshop, I thought it's just a plain, simple leadership workshop for women. And when I went in, of course, I learned many wonderful things about leadership, but I found out there is a specific goal, which is to encourage women to run for office. So the idea of civic and political involvement started in there. And then 2 years later, the city has been doing it for many years, but I had the opportunity to attend a program called Opening the Potential. Again, a very deliberate program to educate women about how it's like to be involved in politics and some of the mechanics, how does running a campaign look like? What do you need? And in those workshops, they told us about opportunities to get involved even before running to understand how the city works. So the idea of you can volunteer for these things called city advisory boards. Oh, I didn't know that. Then eventually I applied for the transit advisory board, served for 6 years, and I was chair for 2 years because I just thought it was really fascinating. Also, the idea of volunteering in a civic and kind of, in many ways, political level, the community leagues, right? The neighborhood-oriented not-for-profits. It reminded me of a sort of similar setup in villages in the Philippines. I'm like, oh, okay, so I can get involved in that. And that's where the more interaction with city programs, services, and processes. That's where I learned a lot more about them. Like, oh, okay, the city does this when it comes to neighborhoods and playgrounds and whatnot. And somehow I like sharing my opinion, but in a very deliberate way. So instead of venting on social media, there is a survey system in here called Insight Community. So I subscribe to that, and it was so rewarding for me and until now to pretty much get a heads up on what the city is doing. They're building this park. What's your thoughts about structures and whatnot? Or I remember the conversation about the redesign of the whole public transit network. I knew about that before the average person did because the initial consultation was the surveys before the public. So that's kind of where it all started. And that's where, because I'm someone who uses city services most likely more than the average person. You know, I can't drive, I take the bus, and I borrow a lot of things from the libraries, and I go to the community playground in the river valley and get involved in my community league. So I think I see more often the impact of city policy in people's everyday life. And I'm like, okay, I think this is something I have been already lending my voice through my current endeavors. And I thought the idea of running for office at the municipal level is just so for the people entry level for me. And I thought it was a good fit.
So it brings up three different questions I need to ask, but I'm going to start with one and then hopefully fill in the last two. Or if you answer the both in this question I'm about to ask, then great.
Yeah.
You just mentioned in that statement that your life is a little bit different than the average Edmontonian. You don't drive, you use the library more often than not. How does your background give you the perspective on council, or would give you, how would your background give you a different perspective on council that is missing right now that you could bring, that you could say, I'm a new type of Edmontonian that isn't what the average Edmontonian council member is looking after right now?
I think in many ways, and it's just the nature of the job and responsibility with the city staff and the policymakers, urban planners, even our elected representatives. They need to really think things big picture and long term, right? And I understand, of course, that from an everyday person's perspective, it's really hard to envision that because what affects them is literally what's in front of them. So let's pick an example. I think about 2.5 years ago, or maybe 3 winters ago, the city did something really drastic. I thought it was a good thing, it was a safe thing, but it really caught transit users and drivers by surprise. We had a very bad ice storm, and they decided for that morning commute, like 6:30 to 9 in the morning, no buses will operate. Like the buses should park. It's too dangerous. We don't want collisions. But people were not aware of that unless you're on Twitter like me. So I knew right away, and I was able to make alternate arrangements. So the immediate with people being like stranded and lost and confused and panicked, right? So that really on the ground everyday impact, I think that is sometimes missed. I'll say another simple example right now. Just this year, the city, as part of their attempt to really try to cut down on expenses, they removed this local program called Front Yards in Bloom. So it's been around for 20 years. It's a simple way, but a really systematic way all over the city to recognize people with beautiful gardens. There's nomination process and everything, and it's citywide, right? So if you're in Meadowlark or somewhere in Laurel on the opposite side of the city, when you see a front yard with that label, you know it's a beautiful garden and it's been recognized by a neighbor who nominated it. That program was removed, and the cost savings is $40,000 a year. They're very clear with the numbers, and the residents that I talked to were really heartbroken about this citywide opportunity to encourage beautification that's being cut. They did not feel that the cost savings was worth it. And for example, oh yeah, another recent example, the parking machines that were removed just a few months ago, and it was switched to the app. And I've heard direct feedback from people that people did not know that it's not the ePark app anymore. It's the Hotspot app, and the machines are not around. So for people with no smartphones, no data, it's really missing, and that's really challenging for some. And another one is
So
buses.
can I
Old buses
interject
with
here
no
for a sec?
AC.
Can I
Yeah.
interject here for 2 seconds? Because I understand that, like, what you're
Okay.
saying is completely reasonable for the belief. But if you haven't come to the realization yet, I'm going to burst your bubble. But I think you know where I'm going to go with this.
Yeah.
You will have to make some very tough decisions that are not going to be popular with every single person in the community.
Yes.
Those e-park. Let's just talk about the taking away the parking meters and putting them on your phone. Universally probably not well loved, but there are people who would say, okay, it's easier and it's probably going to just be a lot cheaper for us to deal with a phone app than going around. How do you anticipate making tough decisions when you know you're not going to please 100% of the people in the community? Because there will always be people in the community who will say, Giselle, you just made the wrong decision because I'm going to be affected negatively. But in the grand scheme of things, you're going to have to look at it for the best of the entire community, not the individual. Or
Absolutely.
will you look at it as the individual issue rather than the grand scheme Edmonton issue?
I think that actually comes into play one of the feedback I have gotten from people even before 2021, which prompted me to run, and that is feeling disconnected from our elected representative. Just not getting enough updates, not getting prompt emails, or even regularly scheduled correspondence like email, e-newsletter, social media, that kind of thing. For our representative here, it was quite lacking. And I think for me, there is a lot of potential in there. Um, when it comes to decisions or things that are happening that people might not completely understand or might inconvenience them, a little bit of explanation goes a long way. Education also helps and providing alternatives. So let's say, for example, um, the e-park thing, just for the sake of simplicity, right? As it turns out, whenever people complain about their challenges, they don't even know that the city's e-park app is not the one that is being used anymore. It is a separate app called Hotspot. So the fact that whenever I tell people, it's like, oh yeah, so is it the Hotspot app that is not working? And they're like, what's that? I'm like, oh, you actually need to switch to Hotspot, and here's how you do it, and that kind of thing. So just those conversations and interactions to help people reach to a solution or even in a situation where they feel more okay with the adjustment it really goes a long way. Another example is parking bans in winter for snow clearing. I've heard a lot of people complain like, oh, why is people why is it that the snow is or ice is not cleared properly off sidewalks? Why is it there are snow ruts over here? And I tell them like, there is a very easy way to get subscribed to parking ban updates. You subscribe here, or if you take the bus, you will see it right on the bus signage, parking ban, and then please follow it. It's also on Instagram and Twitter. As like, oh, and people feel a bit more reassured about that. I really think there's a communication gap, and of course, not everyone follows the City of Edmonton YouTube page or Facebook. So I can be the bridge to help educate and inform my constituents on what is happening, even though both short-term solutions and the long-term benefits.
Want to turn to some of the issues right now because I'm cautious of time and I want to get into the big crux of this entire interview. And we'll probably come back to the decisions you'll have to make around that council table in a few seconds, but I want to talk about the issues. You've been
Yes,
outdoor knocking. I've been watching your social media feed for some time now, and you were outdoor knocking. You're out speaking to residents. Before we talk about what's different between the 2021 campaign and the 2025 campaign, what are you hearing from residents? What are the issues that they are concerned about? Is it just communication, the lack of communication, the lack of engagement, or is there larger macro issues that you're hearing on a regular basis that you're going, "Oh, I didn't think this was an issue, but it is," or is there issues that you're going, "Yep, this is what I'm hearing from four houses down, 12 houses down, 4 blocks away, the other neighborhood beside us."
absolutely. What's interesting, just touching really quickly on the communications piece, those who are very connected and informed about municipal issues, they're the ones who actually bring up that, like, oh yeah, I haven't heard from the current counselor and I think that's not good. We need someone who's more connected because these folks are already informed about municipal issues. So the communication and engagement piece is the first thing they bring up and then focus on the different issues municipally. So including that demographic plus the other everyday people just living their lives and sometimes surprised whenever I contact them, connect with them at the doors. The issues that have been brought up, I'm sure you probably have heard the same thing in other interviews, is taxes. Many of them find that the taxes that they're paying and the rate of increase in taxes doesn't match the rate of increase in services that they are seeing. So whenever they ask me of that, I told them about, we are going to have a different budget assessment process in after this election, zero-based budgeting, and hopefully that is a chance to really look at things line by line and identify if any there are cost savings, or perhaps people just don't realize it that there's actually a lot of important expenses and they're already categorized properly. There is the education piece in there. Here, particularly in the West End in Sipiwiyiniwak, for context for you, I live right next to West Edmonton Mall. I like to nickname it as the construction pandemonium for the LRT and everything else. I'm blocked on 87th Ave, I'm blocked on 95th and 170th, 178th, and 163rd, and all the way to downtown. The impacts of construction have really affected people, not just when it comes to them getting around whenever they drive or take the bus or walk around, because even pedestrian access can be quite tricky with, where is the safe zone for walking and getting off the bus. But people are genuinely worried about the impact to local businesses because the entrance to these neighborhood business plazas are also very much blocked by construction. And of course, I don't have children, but a lot of people do. So even just taking their children to places, it really causes a lot of stress when you have deadlines and timelines to meet when you're traveling around. So that is a big concern. And so taxes, construction impacts, safety is most definitely a big one. I am connected to some of the neighborhood Facebook groups talking about community safety. So when it comes to break-ins, encampments, theft, and the underlying issue that a lot of these comes from homelessness, it's definitely something that was brought up a lot. So
So
broad
can
safety.
I ask a question about affordability for a second because I want to dig into those three areas of discussion.
Sure.
Now, I just recently read a report, and this was, and I say recently, I can't say recently anymore because it was recently as in June. So back in June, I read a report from the Fraser Institute that said the cities in Alberta are not spending wisely when it comes to the tax dollars that they get from property owners. When they collect property taxes, they're not spending it wisely on issues that matter to Edmontonians, matter to municipal residents from across the province. Simple question, but it's an important one for people who are listening. Do you believe that the city of Edmonton is spending property taxes wisely?
Not all the time. I think definitely could be better. And
Okay.
that's why personally I am really excited about the discussion about zero-based budgeting, right? I have heard, I mean, depending on, devil's in the details, as they say it, right? Will it be genuinely be a line by line assessment? This is how much we spent on fuel for buses, and this is how much we spent on snow clearing equipment. That is the big unknown. And of course, that does not include the police budget because we don't have a granular line by line item of assessing that budget line. We don't have the opportunity to do that because that is all taken care of by the police commission. And as far as spending wisely,
Do you
that
think
is,
that's right?
I don't know. I would love to have the opportunity to really look through it line by line. And I know there's all these rules with the Police Act, MGA, and the Police Commission. And hot take, perhaps, or maybe I'm signing myself up for a big responsibility that might be cumbersome. But I would love to be the city councilor who is in the Edmonton Police Commission because I know that is the chance to look at these budget items line by line on
We
their end.
talk you talk about community safety as being one of the issues that you're hearing at the doorstep, and it goes hand in hand with the police that we were just talking about with the police budget.
Yes.
But how do we make people feel safer? Because and I say this relatively respectfully, but at the same time knowing that everyone's lived experience when it comes to safety is going to be different. Now, if I walk downtown Edmonton, I'm gonna feel safe. If I walk in through the West Edmonton Mall, I'm gonna feel safe. Yes, there are random attacks. Yes, there are people who do get abused and assaulted, and there are petty crimes that go on a regular basis. So when we say that Edmonton needs more police, it's a relative thing because it all depends on who you're talking to. What do you see as the biggest issue facing the city of Edmonton right now when it comes to the crime that is dealing with? Is it the encampments? Is it the homelessness? Is it mental health and addiction? And how do we solve that on a ward by ward level?
In some of the neighborhoods that I have been they have been requesting to have the return of beat cops, I think is the right term. So essentially, police officers that are designated in their neighborhood doing tours. So for some of these neighborhoods, that is what they feel is important. For others, they want more support to have a more robust neighborhood watch. I'm like, okay, so it's the people in these certain neighborhoods, they want to be part of the solution and they want reassurance from their elected representative in the city to help make that happen. I think that is reasonable. We can make that happen. Just jumping ship here a little bit, just really quickly on the LRT. A lot of people apparently did not know that funding has shifted and there are more peace officers patrolling the LRT. That's why I made a post about it, and I've been getting messages that people are like, oh, I didn't know that the other type of security was not as most effective. So the peace officers, it makes them feel a bit more reassured. And for those who might be more passionate about having community safety and also making sure that it's not 100% police focused. There are existing partnerships with 211, Bent Arrow Healing Society with the Community Transit Outreach Transit Program. People just knowing about these actually helps them feel reassured. So those are some of the things that I think can help.
We are less than I was going to say 50 days, but by the time this airs, it's probably less than a month and a bit away from the election day in the province. And that means voters are going to be starting to make up their minds. But we talk about the macro issues, but elections often come down to the micro issues, the issues that people feel passionate about internally. You talk about affordability, you talk about inclusive and safe communities, you talk about better city services and development and infrastructure as four key platform areas that you're talking about in your campaign. It sounds like they're lining up with what you're hearing at the doorstep. What are the micro issues? What are the issues that people are telling you that say, you know what, those macro issues are great, but this pothole in front of my house, we need better services in our pools because I want to go there every week and I just don't have enough time because it's closed when I need to use it. What are the micro issues that you're bringing to city council if you are elected on October 20th?
What's interesting is that the macro issues they just manifest only with slight variations at the micro level. So for instance, when it comes to growth and densification, for areas like Laurie Heights and Parkview and Sherwood, it's how to do infill responsibly in a way that is not so chaotic towards the current residents there. And in the areas outside of the Henday where new houses are being built, they're just worried about the impact on infrastructure and the influx of people coming in and the unfortunate common behavior of people parking on the streets, which can have consequences. I've been looking at it so much more closely whenever I take the bus. I'm like, oh yeah, lineup of cars. Okay, there will be more of that when 500 more people move into that block. Snow clearing, again, just different versions of it. They want to have better snow clearing in their local roads or in the collector road in their neighborhood. Congestion, the same thing. Us here in the mature west, and it's because of construction in the newer neighborhoods, especially in Winterburn Road and whatnot. It's just because of volume, right? So those are, yeah, it's just more local context, but it's basically the same things.
You talk about the housing issues and the infill and densification.
Mm-hmm.
Now, housing seems to be a topic of much discussion at the city council these days, and we all saw what happened at the last council meeting, but earlier in, I believe it was end of July or beginning of August when it happened.
Yes.
But when you speak to residents, do they want to see densification? Do they want to see infill, or do they want to see sprawl where you're growing Edmonton out rather than up?
Yes. So when it comes to the discussion of infill and densification, people don't even use the word sprawl. The focus of their sentiments is that they're okay with the idea of densification and some infill, but the negative impacts on them, that is the main thing they're worried about. Will there be too much street parking that things will be disruptive? Too many garbage bins now in a small one or two lots that it will make the job of the garbage collectors more difficult, or will it be disruptive and loud? And for me personally, because in my conversations, they're so amped up, it's kind of difficult to jump in and ask like, well, so do you want sprawl instead? I hardly have a chance to really make them think of things that way because with their emotional state, I really just want to listen and understand better. And it's unfortunate because I did some research and people don't have a legal right to sunlight, but of course that affects their way of life when there's big shadowing and whatnot happening beside them. Just like, just the nerd that I am. I remember 5, 6 years ago when I attended my first public hearing just to listen because of this big build happening in Hollywood across the city. And this animated videos showing sun shadow studies. I've never heard of such thing until then, and how they're arguing that this will be very disruptive to their life. So, um, yeah, like the trade-off of growth versus sprawl has not come up because people are focused on how is this going to negatively affect me. While there is a smaller subset of people I talk to online and offline that do support the idea of densification. So that's the discourse that I've been getting lately.
I want to turn back to the role of council and once you're elected on October 20th. And I say once, and because that's democracy, if you are elected, you get to serve.
Yes.
One of the things that I often hear from residents from any municipality is city council silos itself once it's elected. They will listen to only the voices that are surrounding them, whether that be their friends, the people who say yes to them, and they don't listen to dissenting voices. They don't hear from the people who disagree with them. How do you envision representing everyone? Because I'm going to break a bubble right now. Again, on this show, I do it a lot, but you are not going to get elected by 100% of the people in the community that you want to represent. So that means there are going to be people who say, I don't want Giselle. How do you plan to ensure that you represent the people who vote for you and the people who don't vote for you on city council?
Yeah, that's a really great question, really important. Part of what I have been doing now, actually, which I haven't had much chance to do in 2021 because in-person meetings were a bit tougher, is meeting with people, advocacy organizations that advocate for things that I don't always agree with, like the no infill folks, for instance, right? Or people who might not see me as, or might not have encountered me in their networks because it's just so different. Like wealthy business owners and developers. I'm not within their circle. Let's just face it, right? And I know that. And I've been having discussions to understand where they're coming from so that I know why they're thinking the way they are and what kind of flexibility or happy mediums can be in there. Because just as an example, I met with one of those organizations that are where they seem to be 100% against infill. At least that's how they're portrayed, that's how they're presented. But I had a meeting with them and they're actually more nuanced than that, right? A lot of it comes down to perception or sometimes people being polarized against each other. So I want, with my experiences already with volunteering in community leagues, city boards, different not-for-profits, and my experience in arts and culture and mainstream and multicultural media, I think I have the skills to make connections with people and organizations with different perspectives that they can bring to the table. I believe with my experience already with volunteering at the local level in my neighborhood community league, the city boards and not-for-profits, my experience in arts and culture, mainstream and multicultural media, that I have the skill sets to have regular ways to communicate and connect with me and different ways to disseminate information to people. And with all of that, I'm confident that I will be able to listen to everyone and explain things. A lot of the time, people just need an explanation, even if they don't completely agree with it. And they're like, oh, I don't use transit, I don't care. But I'm like, well, it's important for us to do X, Y, and Z. Yeah.
We are a few weeks away from the nomination period, and that means election day right around the corner. What do you have to do between now and election day to ensure that you get out in front of as many people as possible?
Yeah, well, I'm trying to apply all the things I learned in the campaign schools from 2015 to 2017. In some ways, you can argue that at the municipal level, especially there's no, well, things have changed this year, but conventionally speaking, there's no political parties
Can I
until
ask you
now.
about that for a second? Why did you decide not to run with a political party?
I want to stay consistent with how I approach things in 2021. I wanted to present who I am and the values that I represent and connect with people. And I don't want that to be overshadowed by the complications that come with political parties. And when these become an opportunity, I decided it is not for me. There's also a reason why I declined running at the provincial and federal level. I've had offers, especially after my performance in 2021. And I realized that yes, the partisan politics environment is not a good fit for me. I don't think it will be the same even at the municipal level. And I really am passionate about the municipal issues anyway. So, yeah.
One of the big issues that you're going to have to sort of balance when you get sworn in is you will be sworn in as an Edmonton city councilor. You will not be sworn in as the Sipiwiyiniwak councilor. You will be sworn as an Edmonton city councilor. But the people who have elected you will want you to only advocate for their issues that they believe is important. But you're going to be faced with many issues that are not I don't want to say pertinent, but not on the radar in your ward if you're elected. Who wins in that ultimate decision? Is it always going to be the city of Edmonton because you have to look at everything through an Edmonton lens, or will it always be the people and the community that represent or that voted for you?
I think in some ways it could be both. For
How so?
example, let's pick I'm going to go back to transit again because it's just my wheelhouse. Um, if there's more funding in transit that results into certain neighborhoods here that are underserved getting better bus service, then that neighborhood wins and the city wins. I have heard, I have taken the on-demand bus to some of these underserved neighborhoods. I literally know how it's like to commute there. So it's really not an either or in a lot of ways. But if, for example, let's go back to the infill conversation again, right? And densification. If the decision ends up being that the surplus school sites really becomes a proven affordable housing gets built over there, I just want to make sure that if they need to just vent and grieve, I will be there for them, and while going through a difficult change, because sometimes when change is inevitable and they just need their elected representative, their leader to be there for them, so that when the next battle, so to speak, comes in, they would know that I will do my best to advocate for their position, regardless of the outcome.
You mentioned that you want to stick to your independence route and your roots that you sort of grew in 2021 when you first ran for council. But we all change. We all adapt to the realities that we live in. Is the Giselle that's running in 2025 still the same as the Giselle running in 2021, or have you adapted to the realities of what the issues are? Because what we faced in 2021 is not the issues we're facing in 2025.
For the most part, absolutely. I think the things that changed in 2025, perhaps it's because of me learning a little bit more how campaigns work. Is I feel more comfortable purchasing things. I somehow thought it was maybe naive of me back in 2021 that everything needs to be volunteer run and free and you use all the free tools and grassroots and that kind of thing. My campaign is still very grassroots, but I have learned a little bit more from people who have experience running campaigns. I'm like, oh, there is such a thing as a way to aggregate all the input that I have been getting, and it's worth it to purchase software for that. Or sometimes hired services are better so that we don't burn out volunteers or I don't burn myself out. So the sophistication of the particular campaigning tactics, I think that is what changed in 2025. But my approach and my principles of being grassroots and people oriented, caring about those voices that are not always heard at the decision making table, that stay the same.
What do you want people of CP Winnywalk know? What do you want them to know that we haven't talked about yet?
I think those people who have encountered me through my community service and whatnot, they probably already know. But for the everyday people who might be hearing about me from the first time, what I would like them to remember is that I've been serving this community for years and I'm ready to keep serving as counselor. So it's not like I'm a first timer in the municipal space. I've been there already. I know how city governance works. I've presented in front of chambers many a time and I have lined up for my turn at the public hearing meetings and really I'm positive that these are many of the skills that I can offer if I get the opportunity to serve them in that capacity.
So my final question is the $1 million question, and I'm turning the microphone over to you so you get to take as long as you want or as little time as you want. Why should people put their trust in you, Giselle General, to be the next city councilor for the people of Sipiwiyiniwak in 2025?
I believe that there's enough people already back in 2021 who thought that I could actually do the job. 5,180 votes behind the incumbent, I think is a really good accomplishment already. And ever since then, I did not go away. I got even more involved. That was when I became the board chair of the Transit Advisory Board, co-founded a local not-for-profit, and continued the education and engagement in inspirational content I've been making to serve the community. I think I have a really good combination of business experience from my business degree in running a family business in the Philippines, the experience of depending on city services when I immigrated over here, and the leadership from all the things that I have already done at the neighborhood level, at the city level, and in the arts and culture and journalism space. I think it's a very good combination of skill sets that I can offer, and I am a very adaptable and collaborative person. A bit of a side note, people have asked who's your preference for the position of mayor, and I told them I can work with any one of them, whoever gets elected, because I have worked with them through my previous volunteering. So those are the skills that I can offer, and I hope they consider me. And I'm very searchable online. So the website is gisellegeneral.ca. But if you forget that, Giselle General Edmonton, my website should be top of the search engine results now. I know I do a bunch of things, so I'm very searchable online. But I'm also on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, even the unique ones, Mastodon and Blue Sky. I'm also there. So very
There,
reachable. You can connect.
the links to Giselle's social media pages, website, email address will be in the show notes below for anyone who was watching and wants to reach out. I should also mention that if you are running in this upcoming election and you want to be featured on the show, reach out to us. We have 343 municipalities that we have to deal with, and we have to make sure that we cover every single one of them. So if you want to be featured on the show, reach out to us because we have a lot of candidates to get through. Giselle, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for sitting down and chatting with me today.
Thank you so much, Chris, for the opportunity.
Thank you so much for tuning in for another episode of Alberta Municipal Votes 2025 here on Municipal Affairs. We hope you've enjoyed today's conversation and gained some valuable insights. Editorial note: if you are a candidate running in this upcoming election and want to be featured on this show, please reach out to us by visiting our website, click on the Contact Us page, or send us a direct message on social media. We would love to hear why you're running in this important election and what you're hearing from your constituents. Also, if you haven't already, be sure to hit that subscribe button to never miss an upcoming episode of Municipal Affairs, Alberta Municipal Votes, or even cross-border. Your support means the world. So share this episode with your friends, your family, and yes, even your community, and keep the conversation going. Till next time, stay informed, stay engaged, and we will be back with a brand new episode of Alberta Municipal Votes 2025 shortly.